Hello, and thank you for joining Life, Love, and Gardening. Today I will be planting up onions. So I'm so glad you're here. I'm going to go ahead and get the camera turned around, and we're going to get started. So here I have a tote. Let me get you guys straight a little bit, get it nice and straight for you. So I have this tote. I went ahead and I prepped it by putting some holes in the bottom for the drainage. Want to make sure that we have good drainage so that our roots to whatever we're planting is not going to get waterlogged and brown and gunky. So that good drainage is what you always want to make sure you have when you're doing raised bed garden. And so what I have here is a little bit of compost and manure mix. And because I don't have any filler material such as straw, hay, or cardboard, or food scraps that sometimes you might want to throw into the bottom, sometimes even sand. And so I'm just going to add to my bottom of this tote a little bit of compost and manure. And I think I'm going to maybe add it all the way up to about possibly 2/3 of the way. I'm going to go ahead and give this a good little mix, spread it out just a little bit, see how much I have in here, see how much we're working with. And I feel like I need a little bit more of this mix. And so let me go ahead and add a little bit more on top. There we go. Start to get it a little bit more filled in here. See some sticks are in here. I'm just going to toss it to the side, and I know that it will break down eventually here at the bottom of this tote. And then so next what I'm going to add is a little bit of peat moss that I had left over from previous plantings. And what this is going to do is it's going to help give a little bit of light fluffiness, a little bit of aeration. Even though I'm planting onions, oh my goodness, it's so windy. If you can see, the wind is blowing this soil, this peat moss, which is really dry. I did not wet it beforehand, but it's blowing all around. But anyhow, so the peat moss gives it airiness, and so it helps with the drainage. And I'm really wanting to get it in here good. I have another bag that I'm going to add on top of this just for a little bit more filler and just to make sure that it's airy enough so that I have good drainage. And this is the Premier Peat Moss. Let me just get that cut open. And peat moss, you think because it's moss that it's going to be like light. It is that bag of peat moss. That big block of peat moss is so heavy. So I'm just digging my hands in here and I'm just taking it and tossing it in there because I'm not going to hurt myself trying to pick up that big bag of peat moss. It's like a big, okay, some chunks in here. I'm just going to break those up, get it mixed in, because I'm not just going to use this tote for just onions. So I'm going to be rotating out crops. I'm going to possibly use this for, potatoes or deeper root fruit, as they will call them, tomatoes, that roots that run a little bit deeper. So I'm going to go ahead and add in some of this raised bed potting mix, organic. It's by Kellogg's, and I really like Kellogg's It's not really a heavy raised bed mix. I've liked it. I've used it in the past, and I haven't had a problem with it as of yet. But to this, I will still be adding a little bit of peat moss. And this has been sitting off to the side for some time, and so it's really kind of dry and clumpy. So I'm just going to break up these clumps as best I can. Just get it going here. And so you want to make sure you do break up your clumps like that to make sure that your roots of whatever you're planting is going to be able to go down and get maybe some water when it starts to get hot, as it does get very hot. Where I'm at, I'm in zone 8B, I believe. So it gets really, really hot. As you can already tell in this video, the wind has been blowing like crazy, and it's really windy here. It's really hot here. It gets really humid as well. So I want to make sure that I'm breaking up those clumps and getting that peat moss in there, good for the drainage, good soil health. And I'm really wishing I had worn some kind of glasses or something for my eyes, because that peat moss was blowing all over the place. And so I'm going to take it and mix it all up with my hands, because that little trowel, that little shovel wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. I really need to get in here and mix it up. Okay, so I'm just going to head on over and get my onions and come on back. And so what I did was I took a soil bag, a potting, a seed starting mix bag that I used, and I just took my onions and I put them down in this the last little quarter of mix that I had left, and I put them down in there. And so as you can see, the roots are really thick on this, and I don't just have one set in here. I have, what I'm planting today is the sweet red globe onion, but I also have in there some, I believe, white Bermuda onions and some yellow granite onions, but I'm just going to plant up some of the red onions today. Really, they all need to be planted, but right now I'm just going to plant up the red. Can you see those roots? I mean, they're really white. And I'm not trying to shake all the dirt off of the roots. I'm leaving the dirt on the roots, hoping that it will not cause as much transplant shock. So I'm just going to pull off a couple, and then I'll start nestling them in a little hole. And so I'm not going to make the hole really deep. I'm basically just trying to get mostly the roots in there and just a little bit of the base in there. And so I'm planting these about 4 inches apart or so. Or about 2 to 4 inches apart. I'm sure I'm maybe supposed to be planting them a lot further apart, but at this point I'm not really worried about it. I'm just trying to get them in the ground, get them planted out in this raised bed, and get them out of that little bag. And so even if I don't get really big bulbs on this, that's fine. If I just get some scallion-like cut onions from it, that's fine. It's better than not having anything and letting them sit in the bag and kind of rot. And as you can see, the roots are, nice and white, and they're getting pretty long. And these onions, as I'm planting them in here, they're gonna lie down. They're not gonna stand straight up. Maybe gonna take a little bit of time for them to stand straight up. They've been in that bag that I had them in for maybe a month or two. And they probably have been in there a little bit longer than 2 months, actually. I believe I got these in maybe late winter, early spring. And so again, these are a red sweet onion, a round red skin sweet onion. And red onions do have a fairly strong flavor. And so inside of the flesh is white with a pink tinge. And red globe onions are a pretty good keeper. They typically keep for about 2 to 3 months. And so they are an excellent sweet variety of onion. And they are ideal for slicing because they're so colorful. But believe me, they're just as delicious as they are colorful. They're great in salads. They're great in soups and stews. You can pickle them. And again, these onions take approximately 110 days to maturity. So you definitely want to start your seeds indoors as early as you can, just to kind of ensure that you have the biggest transplants available for planting out in the spring. And so I didn't start these red onions by seed. I went to our local garden center and I just bought a bunch of these transplants from a local garden center, and I still kept them for a good 2 months or so before I decided to plant them out. And so with these red onions, as with just about any other onion, you can kind of pull onions at any stage for fresh eating. You can also harvest the young onions to eat as scallions, which I may or may not do with these as well. But for full-size bulbs, you don't want to pull onions until the bulbs are big and the tops start to yellow and fall over. And then when you want to harvest these onions, you just pull the onions out of the soil and you shake them off. And then you want to make sure that you cure the onions by placing them in a warm place with lots of airflow. And so during the curing, you want to make sure that, like I said, there's lots of airflow throughout there, because what's going to happen is during curing, the roots are going to shrivel and the necks are going to dry and tighten up. And then about after 7 to 10 days of the air curing, you're going to cut off the onion tops and trim off the roots with some scissors. And then you can carefully rub a little bit of the dry dirt from the bulbs, but you want to make sure you're taking good care not to remove the papery outer skin from the bulbs. And so you want to make sure that you keep the onion in a temperature that is slightly cool, but not cold, but cool. And then, because they last longer in the dark and in a cool, dry storage area. So you want to make sure that you don't ever really place them in, let's say, a plastic bag, because you don't want to take a risk or the chance that they may mold. So you just want to make sure you just put them off in a cool, dry, dark area, and they should keep for about 2 to 3 months. And so I think I can plant maybe about 2 or 3 more in this tote. And I'm just kind of creating a little hole, and I'm going to put them in there, and then I kind of just, once I put it in there and cover it up, the roots up with dirt, and then I just kind of press it in there, kind of firm it out just a little bit. And so in about 90 to 110 days or so about 3.5 to 4 months, I'll be able to come out and pull up some, I hope, pretty decent sized bulbs. I don't have many pests, or it doesn't get really rainy just consistently where they mold or get pests or wilt and die. And that's just a wee little baby one. I'm going to put it in and see how it does. And so that's it. We have them planted up. Got one garden task done today. And I'm just making sure that I'm kind of firming them in there just a little bit. Some of them, like I said, they're going to lie down a little bit till they get acclimated to their new home here. So there's really not much left for me to do here besides water them up. I'm going to put that little baby one back with this family. That is a white onion, I believe. And so if I wanted to, I could really come in here and throw some lettuce or, do some interplanting if I like. But I'm just going to go ahead and get these watered in really well. And we'll be good to go. I had to turn on my light because it was getting really dark. It's probably about 8 o'clock, 8:30 at night when I'm finishing this up. And I really, really thank you guys for staying with me, joining me while we plant up some red onions. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. See you guys on the next video.